If you own a GE refrigerator and you have one of these fans, ow, that hurt. You will come to hate it, and if you haven't hated it yet, you will hate it by the time you've had it 3 or 4 or 5 years. This is the evaporator cooling fan, which is the fan that takes freezer air and blows it up into the refrigerator cavity or the compartment in the refrigerator. And invariably, after a couple of years, and I think there's a lot of people I don't need to tell this to, these things start making all kinds of racket. And then what they eventually do is they fail, and they will lock up. And I believe the problem is, I don't know if this is a ball bearing or a sleeve bearing fan, but what I do know is moisture gets in the fan, gets in the bearings, and degrades them, because I think what it does is it condensate inside the fan. It gets in there, rusts the bearings, and then the bearings eventually fail. But you know if you've got this problem because the refrigerator gets really loud, and then if once it locks up and stops running, you'll notice your freezer works fine, but your refrigerator doesn't. So this is my 4th fan, and it's interesting. You can tell that GE has a big problem with this fan simply because if you look on Amazon, you can see how many people have bought this particular fan. Now this is not a knockoff, which I'd never put in my fridge. This is an official GE Appliances replacement evaporator cooling fan. Well, I'm sick of it. So what I did was I was bouncing around on eBay and I found this fan. And this is an IP68 rated fan, which if you're familiar with that, it's for water intrusion. Actually, you can put this fan underwater, okay? This fan is not rated any IP. There's no IP ratings at all. The thing you have to be careful about too is the Chinese counterfeiters have gotten really good at selling fans with this exact NIDEC label on it. That's why I wouldn't do it. I did it one time, and what I found is that the tachometer lead wasn't even connected internally to the fan. So all they were doing was selling you a fan that would go 0 to full speed all the time and wasn't pulse width modulation regulated. So the refrigerator controller could not control the fan speed because there was nothing connected to that wire. So what I did was picked up a couple of these fans off of eBay, and if you see the model number, but there's a seller that has these, and I think there's some other folks I've seen have it. I paid $9 for this fan. This fan was over $40, which I know it's going to fail in a couple of years. So what I did was I said, hey, can I successfully swap this POS for this? Now, the airflow, it's interesting, the CFM rating, this fan actually says it puts out less on the specs than this fan, but when you power them up at 12 volts, this little guy puts out more. Now, what I did is I did a comparison between these two fans, and the circuit that I've got here, essentially, and I'll give you the pinout or the wire coding for each of the signals on these two fans, is the GE fan full out has a 116 hertz square wave, which the controller uses to determine how fast the fan's spinning. This one at 12 volts has 150 hertz output, so slightly different. I think I'm gonna try it. I think the controller will still try to throttle it up and down. Maybe it won't be quite the same, but I think it'll be okay. The other thing, if you look at my numbers here, on the top I've got San Ace at 13 volts, consumes 300 milliamps, and that's at 150 hertz full speed. The GE fan at 13 volts is 81 milliamps at 126 hertz. And then the San Ace, that's the pinout. Red is plus, black is minus, yellow is tack, brown is pulse width modulation. On the GE fan, red is plus, black is minus, blue is tachometer, and yellow is PWM, and that's through a 1K pull-up resistor. So where I'm going with this is, and you'll notice the one thing that I had a little bit of sensitivity about was that the SAN Ace consumes 300 milliamps at full speed, and the GE fan consumes 0.81 amps. 81 milliamps. So you'll notice that on these fans, and I've got the GE fan, I'm going to call it the POS fan. I've got the POS fan running, and watch the current over here as I put my finger on that, okay? So as I put my finger on that, I slow it down, the current goes up. Now, on one of the fans, my first fan I replaced in it, I had a completely locked rotor situation. And matter of fact, when I pulled the fan out to change it, you couldn't even spin the fan. It was so locked up. So that tells me, because I was worried about, hey, the controller board, I don't know how much current that little MOSFET or the transistor or whatever they've got running this fan is going to tolerate. But I can tell you at locked rotor, it's a whole lot more than this little fan running at 302 milliamps. Okay, so that kind of convinced me to say, hey, I think that controller board is the output driver for this fan is rated higher than this little SAN Ace fan. And you know, I think what I'm trying to, you may not be able to get this exact fan, but there are fans on the market that are IP68 rated. If you can see that IP68 kind of right there. And that's an underwater rating. And this is a ball bearing fan. And I think DigiKey had them, Mauser had them, but I think they may be obsolete now. But if you type in this model number, you'll get a hit on, because the guy had a ton of them. But all I'm saying is that if you're sick of changing these fans out, this is a potential option. Like I said, the specs aren't too far off. You know, they're both 4-wire fans. They both require, you know, have PWM control, TAC. And the fan, the CFM rating, again, this guy seems to put out more air than this guy, the original, the factory fan. But all that's going to do is if the fan puts out more air, good news. Then your refrigerator compartment's going to cool just that much faster, and then the controller will throttle it back or shut it off when it gets to the temperature, the set point temperature for the fridge. So I don't see an issue here. I'll do a follow-up video after I change it. I'm just waiting for my next fan to fail in that fridge, which it's been singing probably for the past 6 months. So either I get sick of it and just do it, or wait for it to fail. I don't think I want to wait for it to fail, because it will usually fail when we're out running errands and not looking in there, and then we lose, or some of the food starts to spoil because the fridge isn't being cooled by that device. So anyway, pardon my cynicism here, but I'm just sick of these fans. Wish we wouldn't have bought the fridge. It's only 5 years old, 6 years old, and 4 fans, that's way too much. So GE, if one of your so-called engineers ever watches this video, please do something about this fan. Anyway, thanks for watching.